Imagine a world where a human life is cheaper than a game show, where criminals don't receive punishment, but instead are thrown into a deadly game, and the whole world watches it live on TV. In this game, even an innocent prisoner becomes part of the show, and now he must prove his innocence. Let's see how. The movie opens in the year 2045. A massive crowd has gathered around an arena where two great warriors are fighting. Only 3 minutes remain in the round, and Novak is at a disadvantage because Calypso is armed with a deadly pickaxe. Novak's only hope is to defend himself long enough to get close and land a strike. The crowd cheers wildly as Novak focuses entirely on survival. He delivers a series of powerful punches and kicks, eventually knocking his opponent to the ground. Novak picks up the pickaxe to finish the job because winning is his only chance at freedom. But just when Novak thinks he's free, another challenger enters the arena. A fighter named Cutie Pie slashes his stomach open with a sword, laughing as Novak's insides spill out. Finally, she strikes his neck and ends him once and for all. Every week, a new team of prisoners fights for their freedom, while the audience places bets on who will survive. Meanwhile, in prison, another inmate named Luke Venter was serving a 200-year sentence, though he had only spent 10 years so far. The officers asked if he wanted to serve his time in jail or fight for freedom in the arena. Luke knew if he fought, he'd be killed, so he chose to remain in prison. He told them he wasn't fit to live in society and was sent back to his cell, removed from the fighters list. Then came Arturo Perez, who had already served 15 years of his sentence. Despite being guilty of murdering 57 people, Arturo claimed he was a changed man. The recruiters offered him a chance at freedom, and he signed up for the arena. That night, Luke stared at a picture of his fiancée and thought about the offer again. It might be his last chance to see the arena. The following week, Arturo and 9 other prisoners from the state prison were selected to compete in Arena Wars. The show's hosts, Samson and Moses, introduced the season's gladiators. Unlike regular prisoners, the gladiators were the nation's deadliest criminals, armed with special weapons and armor. Among them were Calypso and Cutie Pie, both original members who had fought since the beginning. When Arturo realized he'd be facing maximum security criminals, he grew nervous, knowing they were even crazier than his own teammates. Moments before entering the ring, Steve, one of the prisoners, broke down in despair. Arturo tried to comfort him, reminding him he didn't belong here because he'd been wrongly accused. But before the fight even began, flames fell from the ceiling and burned Steve alive. The gates opened, and Nero entered the arena. Arturo urged the others to stay united if they wanted to survive, but panic spread, and some prisoners tried to escape. Their heads had been implanted with bombs, triggered if they broke the rules. As soon as the deserters ran, a 10-second countdown began, and they exploded instantly. With fewer men left, the survivors launched a desperate attack on Nero, but Nero retaliated with his twin blades, wounding several of them. Seeing his teammates fall, Arturo joined forces with Goldie, and together they launched a deadly counterattack, finally bringing Nero down. The moment Nero fell, Arturo grabbed his knife and prepared to face the remaining gladiators. As Goldie bent down to pick up the knife, she suddenly realized that Nero wasn't dead. He was still alive. In the end, Nero... Meanwhile, when Arturo heard the roar of the crowd, he understood Nero had survived. Arturo quickly hid, planning a surprise attack. But just as he was about to finish Nero, another fighter named Counter-Strike entered the arena and challenged him. Brutal hand-to-hand battle began. In the end, Counter-Strike slammed Arturo against the wall, where another gladiator, Meat Wagon, grabbed hold of him. One by one, the gladiators were slaughtering every prisoner. When the audience saw the full record of the prisoners' crimes, they lost all hope of these convicts winning. As a result, betting dropped dramatically, and the show's owners decided they needed something new. They came up with the idea of bringing in a hero-like figure, someone the public could root for. They chose Luke, the man who had previously refused to fight, and began reviewing his criminal record. Soon after, Luke was brought to the company's CEO, Badana. Badana wanted to test Luke's strength, so he ordered 2 of his security guards to fight him. As soon as they attacked, Luke used his strength and combat skills to take down both heavily built guards with ease. Impressed by Luke's abilities, Badana realized he was the perfect candidate for the show. In truth, Luke had once been a Marine officer, but his commanding officer had framed him for a crime he didn't commit. Because of that, Luke had been sentenced to 200 years in prison. This meant his entire life would be spent behind bars. Badana offered him a new deal: fight in the arena, and he might win his freedom. Luke refused again, but Badana revealed that the court had already ordered his execution. Now Luke had only 2 choices: fight in Arena Wars and win freedom to reunite with his fiancée, or stay in prison and accept the death sentence. Luke realized the prison would never let him live long enough to serve his time anyway. So, with no other option, he finally agreed to enter the arena. The following week, he met the 9 other prisoners who would fight alongside him. As they traveled to the Arena Wars headquarters, Luke met a fellow inmate named Khan, a thief. Soon, all the prisoners were taken for medical testing. On the other side, the gladiators were also being prepared for their next fight. In the previous battle, Arturo and Goldie had severely injured Nero. To heal him, the doctors administered a special drug created by Dr. Harada. In reality, this drug allowed the gladiators' boss to control them like puppets. The next day, the show was about to begin. Just before the fight, host Samson and Moses announced something historic. For the first time in the history of Arena Wars, an innocent prisoner will step into the arena. When Khan and the other prisoners discovered that Luke had once been a Marine officer framed in a false case, they asked him why he hadn't told the truth in court. Luke replied that he had taken the blame for his commander's crimes. In exchange, he demanded only one thing during his arrest: the safety of his fiancée and her father. Next, we see two prisoners, Billy and Chambers, who are also set to fight alongside Luke in Arena Wars. Billy, once a famous MMA champion, entered with a clear goal: to make it out alive at any cost. As soon as the gates opened and the team entered the arena, Luke noticed the smell of gas coming from above. Suddenly, Paris, one of the prisoners, was shot dead. At that very moment, Nero appeared. All the prisoners attacked him together. During the chaos, Ashi was stabbed and badly wounded, but Billy stepped in and launched a furious assault, managing to disarm Nero. The prisoners surrounded him from all sides and beat him down one by one. However, in the middle of the fight, Nero managed to stab Gideon in the head, causing everyone to back away in fear. At that moment, Luke stepped forward. When a cameraman got in the way, Luke angrily struck him down, then challenged Nero to a one-on-one fight. Nero attacked fiercely, but Luke overpowered him in just a few moments. When Nero lay unconscious on the ground, Luke moved in and pulled off his mask. But something inside him, his conscience, stopped him from delivering the final blow. Seeing Luke hesitate, Jones stepped forward and finished Nero off. Afterward, the entire team moved toward the second stage of the arena. There, they were confronted by Counter-Strike, a brutal gladiator who grabbed Khan and lifted him high into the air. Luke instantly realized Khan was about to die. He rushed in and struck Counter-Strike, but even so, the gladiator's strength was overwhelming. Counter-Strike began tearing through the prisoners one by one. When Alice saw Counter-Strike coming toward her, she threw one of her wounded teammates at him. Without hesitation, Counter-Strike ripped the prisoner's stomach open with his bare arm. He then walked up to Alice and snapped her neck. Seeing this, Luke launched a furious assault that caught Counter-Strike off guard. Khan then struck him with a blade, and together the team finally managed to bring the gladiator down. At this point, Luke had proven himself to be the strongest fighter in the group, and the rest of the prisoners began following his lead. Luke thanked them for fighting beside him and told them that they must continue working as a team if they wanted to win the next round as well. But Jones refused to listen. He mocked Luke, saying he wasn't brave at all, just a coward who hadn't even defended himself in his false case. Luke calmly replied. Their argument escalated into a heated clash, and Jones decided to go on alone. He stormed off toward the third arena, but just before he could enter, a gladiator named Meat Wagon, hiding behind the door, ambushed him and killed him instantly. Witnessing this, Luke realized no one could survive the arena alone. Stepping forward as a leader, he asked his companions if they were with him. Hearing the roar of applause from the audience, the prisoners were filled with renewed determination. They rallied behind Luke and chose to fight together. As they approached Meat Wagon, he swung his massive axe to cut them down. But this time, Luke and his team fought as one, overwhelming him in a coordinated attack. Finally, Minty, one of the prisoners, finished him off using Meat Wagon's own axe. This victory earned Luke even more trust from both his team and the audience. The crowd now saw him as the true leader, and maybe even the hero they had been waiting for. After winning 3 rounds, Luke and his team now had to face the 4th. But before that, they were given a chance to rest, since they had already made it halfway through the game. While preparing for the next stage, a man approached them and said that Bad Anna wanted to meet them. This man's name was Box. Box led the prisoners to Bad Anna, where a party was underway. Bad Anna asked to meet Luke alone and told him that he had become the hero of the audience. Everyone wanted Luke to win the game. At that moment, Bad Anna revealed that he had a special offer for Luke, but he wouldn't tell him there. Instead, he asked Luke to meet him in the green room. Later, when Luke entered the green room, several security guards suddenly surrounded him. Domino shoved him to the ground. Then Bad Anna walked in and said that thanks to Luke, sponsors were now lining up to support the show. In fact, the channel airing the show demanded that Luke be part of next week's broadcast as well. But Luke refused, saying he wouldn't continue. That's when Bad Anna showed him a photo of his fiancée and her father's graves. He revealed that 5 years ago, on Christmas Day, Arina and her father were killed in a truck accident. The news shattered Luke. His whole world collapsed. Overcome with rage, he tried to attack Bad Anna, but the guards beat him down, leaving him unconscious. When his teammates later found him in this condition, they were devastated and called for a doctor. Box arrived and asked what had happened, but Luke refused to share the truth about his state. However, when everyone insisted, he finally revealed the truth about the next week's Arena war, and that his fiancée and her father were already dead. Hearing this, Billy and the others gave him strength and courage. At last, Luke stood tall again, filled with a burning desire for revenge. He had endured years in prison only because of the promise of his fiancée and her father's safety. But if they had died 5 years ago, and no one had even told him, then everything had been a lie. Now he vowed to take his revenge. That same night, Bad Anna went to see Samson and told him he wanted Luke's show to continue. Hearing this, Samson began to suspect that Bad Anna was planning something unfair against Luke. Meanwhile, inside the lab, Domino, a doctor, was injecting a fighter with a strength serum. The lab's owner demanded the drug for himself as well, but Domino refused. Listening closely to the boss's words, Domino realized they were planning something against Luke. So, instead of actually giving the drug to the fighter, she only pretended to administer it. The fighter believed he had been injected, but in truth, nothing had been given. Later, when the show began, Luke and his teammates walked onto the stage. The crowd erupted in wild cheers. The audience was more excited than ever, eager to witness the final. For years, no prisoner had ever come out of the arena alive, but now the people hoped Luke and his team would change history. Hearing the thunderous chants, Billy smiled and said it reminded him of his MMA fighting days. That same adrenaline rushed through his body, and he decided to fight with that same fire again. At that moment, a reporter named Holly approached Luke for an interview. She asked him about the upcoming fight. Luke thanked the producers for the opportunity and told her that today he was fighting for the people. As Holly exited the arena, the ground shook because Master Blaster, a monstrous gladiator, stormed in with his terrifying saw blade and charged straight at the prisoners. Then Luke told everyone to spread out. His plan was to distract Master Blaster while the others attacked him from behind. As soon as Master Blaster tried to strike one of the prisoners with his saw, the rest of the team surrounded him. The gladiator managed to kill one of their teammates, which made Billy furious. She tried to snatch away his weapon, and at the same time, Billy unleashed a flurry of punches on the enemy. Then Khan grabbed the saw and, in one swift strike, cut the gladiator in half. Meanwhile, Carl was badly injured in the fight, and Minty stayed by his side, protecting him in his final moments. When Luke noticed that Minty was deeply shaken by Carl's death, he encouraged him to stay strong and keep moving forward, because victory was now within reach. Soon, the gates opened again. This time, a strange, clown-like fighter entered the arena. He was incredibly powerful and quickly began defeating the prisoners one by one. But when he came face to face with Luke, he underestimated him, thinking Luke would fall like the others. Instead, Luke used his fighting skills to knock him out in a single blow. Seeing this opportunity, Billy rushed forward and smashed the gladiator with her baseball bat, finishing him off instantly. The crowd erupted in applause, cheering wildly for their bravery. However, Billy was so enraged for being injured during the fight that she continued striking the fallen gladiator again and again. When Luke realized the opponent was already dead, he stepped in to calm her down. Then he handed the saw to Khan so they could press forward. Many years ago, Box himself had competed in arena wars and had survived. He earned his freedom and later got a job working for the show. Having lived through the horrors of the arena, he knew exactly how difficult it was to make it out alive. From the bottom of his heart, he prayed for Luke and his team to win. Next, the prisoners faced Calypso. Khan tried to attack him with the saw, but Calypso slammed him to the ground, knocking him unconscious. He didn't even let Billy get close. Instead, he struck her down before she could react. At that moment, Minty leaped onto Calypso's back, determined to avenge Carl's death. But he couldn't hold on for long. Soon, Calypso struck his neck and broke free. He was just about to finish Minty with his axe when Luke grabbed his arm in time. But Calypso was no ordinary fighter. Since the previous season, he hadn't lost a single battle. Khan tried everything he could to take him down but failed. Then Billy attacked from behind, landing a powerful strike that knocked Calypso to the ground. Just as the team prepared to finish him together, another fighter appeared, Cutie Pie. She struck Luke from behind, injuring him badly. To protect Luke, Khan jumped in and tried to shield him at all costs. chaos. But Cutie Pie found an opening and attacked Billy, defeating her. Then she moved toward Minnie. Khan, worried about Luke's condition, quickly gave him a special medicine to ease the pain. As soon as Luke took it, he gathered his strength and stood back up. With renewed determination, he grabbed Calypso from behind, giving Billy the chance to snatch away his axe. Soon, they kept striking Calypso until he was badly wounded. When Cutie Pie saw this, she grabbed her sword and charged at Luke. But Luke stood his ground, fought her head-on, and quickly disarmed her. At last, he cornered her, ready to drive the blade into her stomach and end her life, when suddenly, Cutie Pie fell to her knees, begging him for mercy. Seeing this, Bad Anna realized something was wrong. The drug they had given the gladiators was supposed to turn them into ruthless monsters who obeyed only their master's orders. Suspicious, Bad Anna asked Domino whether she had actually injected it. She nodded, but when a security guard demanded a blood sample, she hesitated, and the truth was exposed. Right then, Domino pulled out her gun and shot the guard dead. She tried to turn on Bad Anna and hold him hostage, but he snatched the gun from her hands and told her that if it weren't for him, she would have been dead in the arena long ago. In fact, Domino had been working as a sniper for Bad Anna. So now, instead of punishment, he decided to send her straight back into the arena. Meanwhile, when Luke saw Cutie Pie crying, he chose to listen. That's when the truth was revealed. None of the gladiators had entered the arena by choice. The reality was that Bad Anna and his team had been using Dr. Harada's drug to control them, forcing them to fight. Suddenly, Bad Anna stormed into the ring and without hesitation shot Cutie Pie dead. He then grabbed Box as a hostage, threatening Luke to follow every one of his orders. Luke reminded him that millions of people were watching the show live. At that point, Bad Anna began boasting, explaining how he had invested money into this corrupt fort only to cover up his own dark past. But just then, Billy seized the opportunity. She picked up Master Blaster's chainsaw and, in one brutal strike, sliced Bad Anna's body in two. At last, the nightmare was over. Once freed, Box removed the control chips from every prisoner's head, finally granting them their freedom. The horrific show had come to an end, and Box sent the entire team out to live their lives as free men. In the arena, the crowd erupted with joy. They were thrilled, already eager for the next episode. And with that, the movie ends.